then I'll say our consultants are here, and then are there any questions? And that's it. Angela, did you see Jim out there? We're waiting on you, buddy. Okay, good evening, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order. Before we do roll call, if you're a member and participating by Zoom tonight, please refrain from acknowledging the roll call until after we're completed, and then we will, the members present will vote to bring you into the meeting. So with that, clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll start with Mrs. Red, Mr. Salgado, Mr. Schultz, Mr. Tassoni, Mr. Webster, Mr. Westcott, Mr. Arena,
Here.
Mr. Billich, Mr. Booker, Mr. Butita, Mrs. Crosby, Ms. Fellers, Mr. Gurl, Mrs. Gorel, Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Neighbors. Mr. Chairman, we have 12 board members present. We have 8 board members absent.
Thank you, Clerk Gummow. Can I have a motion to allow the members who are participating remotely to join the meeting? Motion by Ms. Fellers, second by Mr. Webster and Mr. Neighbors. Is there discussion on this? No. Okay. Do we have to do roll call though? No. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Do we have to now do a roll call? Discussion on the participation by Zoom? Sure, go ahead.
Please speak clearly and directly into the microphone. Thank you.
Mr. Gall, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, clarification on the Zoom rules. It seems with every week that we move on, more and more people are choosing to do Zoom. Do they have to state a reason? Do they have to state a reason to you, or do they just choose Zoom and we vote on it? I know there were some parameters in our ordinance that we passed to allow for Zoom meetings.
Ms.
Just
Vaughn,
curious.
please answer that question.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so there are certain reasons that you could appear remotely, and I haven't been informed of the reasons for the members that are appearing remotely this evening, but they have notified the clerk in advance that they were going to appear remotely. That's my understanding. But if some members here did not want to approve it, that's why the vote is taken.
Okay, so our policy is just to notify the clerk that we would like to Zoom. We don't have to notify the clerk the reason of?
Yes, you do, but I said I wasn't notified of the reason.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tassoni?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I guess if it's just whatever you feel like doing, I would like to stay at home on my couch too. And I seen there was a motion and a second, and did you indicate that there didn't need to be a vote, or there will be a roll call vote?
No, it had to be a vote. It didn't have to be roll call. But if You want a roll call vote?
No, I didn't know. And like I say, I'm just confused about it because I didn't know I had the option to stay home, and I would have probably chose that. I mean, a lot of people here came down on an off night for a special meeting that we're not being compensated for, and I think many of us would have just liked to stay home or be wherever we were to conduct business. And you know, I just think it's getting out of hand. It's not appropriate. I don't like it, and I think people are taking advantage of it.
Thank you, Mr. Sony. I do know some of, yeah, I think everyone, we've been operating on the honor system. You know, everyone should understand the rules. It's medical, work-related, there was the 4 criteria. But we can refine it at a future date. Ms. Crosby.
Just so I'm clear, whoever wants to participate via Zoom should, and I just want to be clear on this, notify the clerk and to the rationale why. And we have received an email or a memo laying out what would be an acceptable reason not to be able to attend. I'm like Mr. Tassoni. I've been going since 7:30 this morning nonstop, and I won't get home probably until well after 7, maybe closer to 8, and I still am not done with my day. So I would like to know if they reported to the clerk, and for those that are not on the call or down here, and if they reported, and if they didn't report to the clerk, I'd like to know, because if we're going to rely on the honor system, why have a criteria at all? So I would like to see at least this be enforced so we can all get in the same room. And if someone has a legitimate reason why they can't participate, like the chairman, then I think that would be acceptable. But just hit and miss to me is a disservice to the people that do attend, and I think it's disrespectful.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby. So just for clarification, as we passed this ordinance, we did not require a reason to be given to the board at the time we vote on their inclusion. Is that correct?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have the copy of the resolution before me, so I don't remember the exact wording. But we are supposed to know the reason why they're requesting to appear remotely.
Okay.
Oh, there's a question on
Okay.
Zoom.
Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to pipe in that I have spent the last week in the hospital. I was discharged yesterday. I am still COVID positive. Therefore, I'm attending the meeting from the safety of my own house for the protection of you guys as well.
Right, and it's my understanding that the people who are participating remotely are doing so for reasons that comply. I think maybe what we need to do is revisit that ordinance and look at the language and make sure that we're, you know, that it's to everyone's satisfaction. But for this evening, you know, we voted to allow them to participate. Unless there's an objection, I'd like to continue with the meeting. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do remember some of the specific reasons. It was, I believe, medical was for one. But as Ms. Crosby indicated, it was, they were to notify the clerk and give the reason.
Correct.
And I would ask Madam Clerk, how many, and if all, did do that? The clerk is nodding none. So with that, how do we move on?
You would, I'm sorry, repeat what you just
Our
requested?
rules call for board members that want to attend by Zoom to notify the clerk.
Right.
And the clerk has indicated that none have.
Okay. So what are you suggesting?
I'm asking
Action
for the
take.
state's attorney to give her take on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. So they wouldn't be able to participate remotely if the majority vote, if it wouldn't pass. So he'll take a vote. A majority of you have to approve to allow them to appear remotely. So if the vote fails, they cannot appear remotely.
My question is it a technical detail about when they notify the clerk? You know, if at this point in time, if they're making the request, Mr. McDonald just made clear it's for medical reasons. I believe Mr. Lindmark is away on business. That's a valid reason. I'm not even sure who else is on Zoom, to tell you the truth.
Angie.
But I'm not sure what her reason is. But, you know, would it be acceptable? I guess what I'd like to do is be able to move forward with this meeting. And I can tell, you know, from everyone's reaction that this is something that we need to clean up. You know, we can do it, you know, coming up in the near future and take care of it. But obviously it's, you know, we can re-vote on the matter if the board would like to do so. I have Mr. Webster. Do you want to follow up?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Like to let it be known, if I thought I had the opportunity to just not show up, not call nobody, not go by the rules, and stay at home, I would have probably been there.
Well, I understand your sentiment, and, you know, we will work to get this cleaned up. I think, you know, there are, moving forward for all of us, there's going to be legitimate reasons to do it, you know, as, you know, Mr. McDonald's is clearly a medical reason, so, you know, we'll just need to clean it up so it works correctly. I had Mr. Webster, and then I think Ms. Crosby.
Can I say something, please?
I definitely, yes, who, Ms. Red?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I didn't see her hand.
I didn't know.
I'm sorry. Sometime back when the governor did the restrictions or whatever, I recall that if
Ms.
we
Red,
had a medical, I'm sorry.
Ms. Red, I'm sorry. The point was made that you're not officially part of the meeting yet until we conclude the conversation. So if you could just hold your comments for a moment, and once we formally add you to the roll, then we'll allow you to make your statement. Mr. Webster?
Yeah, thank you. I fully agree with what Bert said, and I agree what Dave said, and I agree with what Gene said. But for tonight, so we can move forward and get something done, it's about the map tonight. And so for this evening, we can work on this later for a double down concrete set of rules about not attending a meeting and why and when and all that. You know, I think we can get that done. But for tonight, I would think that we should just move forward with our meeting that we have here this evening, because it is important to get something done with this map. And I think the more people that are able to participate about this map, whether we agree with the Zoom thing or not, I think we should allow them to participate this evening. That's my feeling. But moving forward, no. We got to put an end to this Zoom unless it's absolutely essential for either medical or business reasons. Thank you.
Ms. Crosby?
I concur with Mr. Webster. I do believe that for brevity of time, and I would like to get home sometime tonight, we should move forward, and I thought we did vote. Did we not vote?
We,
Okay, I call the question.
okay.
Get it done.
So can we take another vote?
Yes,
Okay.
because I think it was, sorry. Thank you, Chairman. I think it was a little confusion because you were taking the vote, and then Bert Girl had a question, and then that's how the discussion started. So we can just retake the vote.
Okay. Can we do a voice vote, or should we do a roll call?
Let's just do a roll call to make it clear.
Okay, so we're going to do a roll call vote on this matter, on including the participants, and perhaps, can we ask them now to state their reason for the record on why they're not participating, just so we clarify that? That it's for valid reasons?
No.
No? Okay. All right, then, therefore, clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Arena,
Here. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Booker, Mrs. Crosby,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers, Mr. Girl, Mr. Hoffman, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Neighbors, Mr. Salgado, Mr. Tassoni, Mr. Webster, Mr. Westcott. Mr. Chairman, that is 12 board members yes, 8 board members absent.
Okay. So, with that, the Zoom participants are added to the roll. Do we call roll call for them now?
I would say yes to verify who's on, because I didn't know Ms. Red was on, so.
Okay. So, clerk, could you please call the roll of those who were absent to add those who are on Zoom to the,
So you just want me to do the ones that were absent?
yes, that would be sufficient.
Okay. So just to clarify, Mr. Belich, Mr. Butita, Mrs. Gorel,
Here.
Mr. Kelly, Mr. Lindmark,
Present. Working in Raleigh, North Carolina tonight in my hotel room. I'm not at home on my couch and not being disrespectful. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald,
Here.
Mrs. Red,
Here, medical.
Mr. Schultz, Mr. Chairman, that adds 4 additional board members.
And let the record show Mr. Billich is
Oh,
joining
and now
me.
Mr. Belich. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Red, you had wanted to make a comment. Please go ahead.
I'm going to leave it alone at this time.
All right, thank you. Okay. That was the longest roll call in my history on the board. Tonight, the invocation and pledge will be led by Board Member Fred Westcott.
Heavenly Father, thank you for all we have and all you have done for us. Thank you for our country. Thank you for our veterans who have done so much for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Which stands one under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. So tonight, our, public comment. I believe we have no public comment.
No one has signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Tonight, our presentation is on the proposed reapportionment plan for the County of Winnebago, Illinois. We have our consultants on Zoom with us to answer any questions board members may have. With that, I think we can open it up for questions. I think the plan itself is within your packet. There is an image of the map. There is a link on our website to a more detailed version of the map for you to analyze it more closely. The entire board has been sent by email that link. If you hadn't seen it yet, if you look in your email, it's in there. So with that, are there questions from any board members about the plan? Mr. Webster.
I just want to be clear on this. This meeting tonight is pretty much just required as a part of the legislative process for the first time for us just to look at this map.
That is correct. This meeting is to present it publicly, and to allow an opportunity for people to see it. There will be a public meeting, which I believe will be held through the Operations Committee. And the timeline for that, if I recall correctly, is not less than 6 days from today. or more than 21 days from today, and that gives the public an opportunity to weigh in on the map. And then we have to have final passage of the map by December 31st.
Okay, thanks, because I was a little confused because I saw something come out of Springfield where it's unclear down there, even to the legislature down there, that an extension that the governor just signed, that it could extend this date to January 31st or something like that.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Mr. Lukahans, do you have?
Yeah, hi, thank you for having me tonight. The election, or when the legislature was back in session in October, early November, they passed a bill clarifying the date because there was some confusion in the statute and making it clear December 31st. I think the January 31st date may have to do with the precincts, not with this. The bill is fairly clear now that you have until December 31st to pass a map. And I don't think the governor has the ability to modify that. The legislation itself talks about December 31st.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Was there another hand? Mr. Girl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question, the total VAP, what does that acronym stand for?
Mr. Luke.
This is Phil. Did you say VAP, sir? Just so
Yes.
I can. That's voting age population.
Thank you. Thank you.
So everybody over 18 years of age.
Ms. Fellers.
And thank you for coming to our meeting this evening. In regards to voting age population, do you have any concern about the deviation from median with the voting age population in the various districts? It's my understanding that there have been court cases, including one in the Seventh Circuit, where they've used voting age population for Voting Rights Act purposes. Has that been taken into consideration in the drawing of these districts?
Yes, we drew the district population. Make sure I wasn't, sorry, I wasn't, wanted to make sure I didn't mute myself accidentally. The total population is what's being used for the deviation, which is what you need under the Constitution. It's total population. As far as voting age population, we use that mostly to make sure that the minority districts, which in this case is the one, is a majority voting age population of African Americans.
Any follow-up?
I don't have a follow-up.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, was there a Zoom? Okay. Mr. Tassoni.
And thank you, and maybe it's a gentleman on Zoom there, or whoever can tell us. I'm just curious, our population as of today, this census versus 10 years ago, difference?
I'll be honest, I don't know that I have that number with me. We can obviously get that to you. Bamba, do you have that handy or not?
Not offhand, I'll have to get it.
We can have that emailed out to you though in the next day.
I'm sorry, Ms. Fellers, go ahead.
I have that number. The population, the total population in 2010 was 295,266 residents. And for 2020, the census counted 285,350 for a difference of approximately 10,000.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fellers. What other questions are there? Mr. Salgado.
So the question is more procedurally. So say, for example, if we look at the district the way it's, and we sort of kind of question it, what's the process on that, and what are essentially our rights to do so? I know you said you opened it, you're going to have an open public meeting during operations where this can be discussed, but just wanted to ask, is it really based on the demographics here, that page 2, that kind of gives criteria for the mapping or the remapping? So just wanted to see what the procedure was that on if anyone from the public was interested in saying, I don't agree with the way the map is looking right now.
So you're asking if somebody from the public objects, my understanding is they come to the meeting to get on record with their objection, and then it's incumbent on us to try to address public concerns by adjusting the map. And the final map is done by a roll call vote by us.
Right, and the question that comes out of that is, how's the decision made, whether it's legitimate or not legitimate? Is it based on the statistics on this page, or discretion of taking into account the pockets or whatever of that area? That's where I'm trying to get a procedural, if we need to resize or whatever the case may be, is there an opportunity for that or not an opportunity for that? What's the criteria for that if someone objects to that?
So it would be my understanding that if somebody comes forward with an objection that's based on our compliance with the law, we would rely on the advice of our state's attorney and Mr. Lukahans to advise us. If it's just a matter of, I guess, opinion or some other matter, then I think it's just our discretion on what we choose to do about it. Mr. Lukahans, you have experience dealing with, these things in the past. How are those types of situations handled?
Yeah, obviously, I think Mr. Arena is correct. If it's a legal question or a population issue, we would review that for you, make sure that you are in compliance with the state statute, with the Federal Voting Rights Act, et cetera. That's kind of our job. And to double check any numbers. If it's, hey, we'd like to see one neighborhood move in exchange for another, or we want one neighborhood or one block, whatever, those are calls that obviously I think are legislative calls made for this board to make. Does that answer your question, sir?
I wanted to hear, just for transparency purposes, and how the process goes about. So if anybody has any questions on how redistricting works or based on the population. So I think that's good for the public to know that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado. What other questions are there? Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess my question would be to Ms. Gummow there. Could you tell us how, for the next newly elected board, how it would be determined for the terms?
Please have me clarify that. Are you in regards to board members? In regards to the board members, all board members are up for election next year, and after that there will be a lottery drawing, and by simply pulling numbers out of a hat, they will be determined if they're a 442 or a 244.
Are we able to do that by agreement? Is that an option, do you know? Or that's just been historically done by a lottery?
This is Phil. I don't think you can do it by agreement. I think the statute requires a lottery.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Okay, are there any of the participants who are on Zoom who wish to make a comment? Okay. Just chime in if you can, because I can't see you on the screen. All right. Is there any other further questions or conversation on the map? Okay, I look forward to continue to working on this with all of you and bring it to a successful conclusion before the end of December. Mr. Lukahans, thank you very much for participating this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right, with that, is there any other comments from board members on any other matter? Mr. Hoffman.
Thanks. Paul, I just want to thank you for the hard work. I know you were doing two jobs at once when I seen you, so thank you for all the hard work.
Thanks, I appreciate that. And before we adjourn, I just want to on behalf of the board, offer our condolences to the Lindmark family. Mr. Lindmark lost his father last Friday, and just to say our thoughts and prayers are with the Lindmark family. Okay, so with that,
Thank you.
with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Who made the motion?
Oh,
Aye.
Mr. Webster, second by Mr. Neighbors. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.